When we look at all the massive crises facing the world, climate change, social division, you name it, what if they aren't really external problems at all? What if they're all just symptoms of something going on inside of us? This explainer dives into a pretty radical idea that the real solution starts right here, inside, with a shift from fear to something called self sovereignty.
And that's the big question we're going to dig into. We hear the term polycrisis a lot these days, this tangled up web of emergencies that all seem connected. Well, the thinking here is that if you follow all those tangled threads back to their source, they all lead to one single incredibly powerful force that has shaped our entire civilization.
All right, so let's get right to the root of it. The core argument is that the fundamental driver behind pretty much all our global challenges is fear. And that fear has actually created a kind of blueprint for the way our entire civilization works, or maybe doesn't work.
Okay, but we're not just talking about, the feeling of being scared. The sources we're looking at define fear as a system force. It's a pattern that literally shapes our world. It narrows what we're able to see, it completely distorts how we make decisions, and it leads us to build all these systems based on control. And this slide, wow, it just lays out the whole chain reaction so clearly. It all kicks off with fear, us imagining all the bad things that could happen. Naturally, that creates a powerful desire for safety. And what do we do to feel safe? We attempt control, often through judging others and punishing them. But here's the kicker. That drive for control totally backfires, and it leads to the final stage, fragmentation. Conflict, division, us versus them. You see it everywhere. And here's what that fragmentation looks like in the real world. This visual it's pretty wild. It's called the buckyball of fear. Imagine each of those jagged pieces is a different global crisis. All the things we do to try and stay safe, hoarding resources, building walls, they're supposed to protect us. But instead, they all lock together to create this huge, nightmarish structure that actually makes the whole system less stable. It's the perfect picture of the polycrisis. So here's the really crucial takeaway from all this. Fragmentation isn't just one more problem on the list. It is the fundamental design flaw of our civilization. We keep treating things that are deeply connected, like the economy and the environment, as if they're totally separate. And that leads to this systemic blindness, this inability to actually solve our biggest problems. Okay, so if that's the problem, this massive, tangled mess of fear and fragmentation, what on earth is the solution? Well, this is where the whole story takes a really interesting turn inward. It pivots to this idea of self-sovereignty. Now, right away, let's be clear, this has nothing to do with being selfish or just looking out for number one. Self-sovereignty is the inner discipline to see your own fear, to acknowledge it, but not let it drive the car. It's about taking yourself off that fear-based autopilot so you can make choices from a place of clarity and wisdom, not just compulsion. This diagram, this is basically the map for the whole journey we're talking about. Over on the left, you've got our current way of operating, where our subconscious programming just leads straight to our behavior. The goal is to get to the future mode on the right, where our choices create a regenerative world. And the bridge between the two, that's what the sources call the transformation layer. Here's a simpler way to look at it side by side. The present mode is on the left. Stimulus hits our subconscious, and we react. Boom, behavior. But in the future mode on the right, that transformation layer gets inserted. Think of it like a circuit breaker or a pause button. It creates this tiny space between the trigger and our response, a space where we can actually observe our conditioning and make a conscious choice about how to act. So how do you actually build that transformation layer? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. It's about developing real, tangible skills. Things like emotional literacy, so you actually know what you're feeling. Discernment to tell the difference between a real threat and a fear fantasy. The ability to just sit with uncertainty. And the moral honesty to look at your own patterns without flinching. Okay, so that's the inner work, right? That's the foundation. But how does one person changing on the inside actually change the world on the outside? Well, the next step is all about weaving that new capacity into how we relate to each other, into the very fabric of society. And this quote really just nails it. The problems we're facing are just too big. There's no single hero, no one country, no single company that's going to solve them. The only way through, as it says here, is this idea of conscious collaboration. And we're not just talking about your average team building exercise here.
Conscious collaboration is a very specific practice. It's what happens when a group of people who have all done that inner work of self-sovereignty come together. They can build real trust and actually solve complex problems because they're not being hijacked by their own reactivity.
So you can see how this thing scales up, right? It's a natural progression. It starts with the individual building their own self-sovereignty. That allows small groups to practice this new kind of conscious collaboration. And those groups start to become what are called islands of coherence, basically living, breathing examples of a saner, more effective way of being and working together. But, okay, a bunch of islands are great, but how do you connect them? How do you turn a few pockets of this new culture into a real global alternative? You need some kind of infrastructure, right? And this is where the sources introduce a project called Phoenix.
And this image? This is pretty much the whole blueprint. See that downward spiral on the left? That's loop 1. That's the fragmentation trap we're in now, heading toward collapse. The upward spiral on the right is loop 2, the coherent, regenerative future we want. Phoenix is the bridge. It's the practical infrastructure designed to help us literally leapfrog from the old dying system to the new one, ideally without going through a total collapse.
And look, this isn't just some abstract dream. It's a real architectural plan with these core pillars. There's a synergy engine to connect the right people to the right projects, new models of governance, tools to help people find their purpose, and even a new way of using AI as a partner to help us make sense of the world, not to control us. Now, it is absolutely crucial to get this next point. This is not another big top-down system telling everyone what to do. The best metaphor they use is a planetary nervous system. It's not a central brain making decisions. It's a supportive scaffold that helps all the different parts of the system sense and respond to each other with more intelligence and coherence. So let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. This whole journey, from our own inner psychology all the way out to global systems, what does it really mean for the future of humanity? When you really get down to it, this whole vision isn't just about putting out fires or fixing problems. It's about a fundamental shift in who we are. As this image really gets at, it's about growing into our role as conscious stewards of this planet, not just its frantic firefighters. And I love this quote because it frames the whole thing so perfectly. You could say our current way of doing things, extractive, short-sighted, competitive, is like a form of civilizational adolescence. This whole process, from the inside out, is the path to growing up, to stepping into a truly regenerative adulthood. So, in the end, this is the choice, laid out right in front of us. On the left, the paradigm we all know, built on scarcity and competition, which leads to collapse. And on the right, the new regenerative paradigm, built on synergy and stewardship, designed for coherence and a thriving future. Which brings us to this final, really powerful question to leave you with. This is all about moving from a system running on the default code of fear to one that we consciously and intentionally design together. It's asking if we can take our deepest values, things like care and connection and stewardship, and embed them into the actual operating system of our civilization. What if we really could code a better future into existence?